man, we're just trusting God to establish a soul-winning, disciple-making, leadership-equipping, church-planting church from the heart of East Africa. And God's doing it. It's just exciting to be a part of a work of God.
Obviously, Nairobi, it does have a history with Christianity.
It's a Christian culture in name, but it's not a biblical culture at all. Bribery culture, just being a norm and figuring out how to do things in a blameless way where, corruption is just pervasive everywhere.
But there's a story that I'd love for you to tell about the young girl that went missing. And there's a lot of kind of like twists and turns in the story.
There is a national crisis of missing children. This is like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old girl, And they're like, yeah, just come back on Monday and we can talk about it. What? Our whole church in Nairobi's praying. At this point...
Yeah, we've gotten the news too.
From missing girl to missing pastor.
Yes. Hi, I'm Brandon Briscoe, and welcome to the Postscript, Living Faith Bible Institute's weekly podcast and YouTube series that invites listeners into in-depth theological and ministry conversations with pastors, Bible scholars, missionaries, and professors. And one of the things that we love to do on the show, one of our favorite things to do, is to reconnect with friends who are faithfully serving Christ around the world in terms of missions and church planting. We love to have them on the show. And today, we get to do exactly that. Joining us on today's episode is my little brother in the faith, a man that I had the privilege of serving with for many years, Myles Cheadle, missionary to Nairobi, Kenya. And it's been a couple years since we've had Myles on the show. A lot has happened in the time that he's been in the field. Ministry is never static, as you know. It's always moving. In a place like Nairobi, things are moving really fast. And ministry brings seasons of encouragement and unexpected challenges, lessons that you could never learn from a book or a classroom. Today, we're going to catch up on what the Lord has been doing in Nairobi and hear about the victories that are worth us taking some time to celebrate and to talk honestly about some of the obstacles that he's faced while on the field. And that way we can all learn together about how God continues to shape ministry and how God blesses and challenges us on the mission field. Whether you're involved in missions yourself or considering how God might use you or simply want to be encouraged by what God is doing through a faithful servant somewhere else in the world, we want this conversation to strengthen you in your faith. And so with that, Myles, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us.
It's good to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, bro. You were just here in Kansas City for your first trip back, really, since you left.
Yeah, it was too short. It was good and refreshing to see everyone, see family. But I felt like as soon as I was starting to get in the time zone in the United States, I was flying back. So, but it's sweet. I'm glad Lisa and the kids, they got to hang out a little bit longer than me.
Lisa's leaving the same day that we're leaving. It's because me and my wife are coming to visit you. I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to bring a team. It'll be my wife and I and Joe and Lauren Medlin from Living Faith Lee Summit, and then Brian and Mindy Clark from London. So you're going to have a real mixture of people.
This is like dream team.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. So you were a teacher at my high school, and it's because of you that I really started following the Lord with my life. Brian and Mindy were in the States on kind of their first furlough where they were back for an extended period of time after planting their first church in London and before going to plant their second church and the exact time that we were preparing to go. And so they had us over into their home. They were very intentional just to invest in us and to envision us for foreign missions. And so he's kind of become, a mentor role model for me in the season of going. And then Joe and Lauren Medlin, they took me and my wife through premarital counseling. And so this is my dream team, at least, if it's no one else's. So,
well, it might only be yours. From our perspective, it's kind of a ragtag group, and you can keep praying for us. Originally, Eve and I just wanted to come to hang out with you and spend time and be, a refreshment. But of course, you got to put us to work, I guess. That's part of it.
If you're here.
But it's a vision conference, right? Like we're going to be envisioning your group of church members. Man, I'm really, really excited about it. It's a huge honor. Our listeners who may not be familiar with the work in Nairobi, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on and what the church looks like right now?
Yeah, it's really a work that started in Kansas City, where through reaching internationals. We started making disciples from Kenya. And over time, there's a faithful woman named Jeanette that was forced to move back home because of visa issues. And she served as kind of a Lydia, where, she was a catalyst to see a church planted in Nairobi. And so it looked like years of her starting a Bible study, winning souls, us taking trips out there and seeing souls won and making disciples from afar via Zoom and making regular trips out. And then in January of 2025, my wife and I and our kids, we moved here. And so our church looks like anywhere from, 12 to 18 kids on a Sunday morning. We've got, about, on a big Sunday, maybe 40 adults, probably average around 35 adults, and various different levels of spiritual development, some that are lost, some that are newly saved, some that are actively in discipleship, others that are in leadership development. Man, we're just trusting God to establish a soul-winning, disciple-making, leadership-equipping, church-planting church from the heart of East Africa. And God's doing it. It's just exciting to be a part of a work of God.
Man, it is exciting. And so last time I was there, 2024, I think.
I can't wait for you to come because it's going to look a lot different than the last time you were here.
That's what I'm hoping to see, just how much it's changed and see the old faces, but also see what God's done. I don't know if Eva showed you this, but Clementine was asked, my middle daughter was asked to do an assignment at school on her favorite missionaries.
Oh, cool.
Did I tell you about this?
No.
And so she could write an essay. She could do like anything that she wanted to do. And of course, she's kind of an artist. So I wanted to show you this. This is the comic strip that she did.
Bro.
It's pretty great. I'll send you a picture. But it's a comic about you guys.
I can definitely see me and Lisa in there.
Yes. Yeah. And then it's great. I mean, she talks about what the Lord's doing and the work. And then on the back, it has a picture of your church.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, it says and growing there with the exclamation point there at the end.
Yes.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. It's so cool.
So I thought that was beautiful. And I wanted to show it to you today because I thought,
oh, I love that. I had Clementine in preschool class when I served in Kid Town. And so, yeah, it's very special to me. Yeah.
Well, she loves you guys. She thinks you're the greatest. So, but yeah. So, I mean, on the show, I want to give you a chance to talk about what's been going on. Obviously, in the Bible Institute, we have a lot of people that are ambitious for what the Lord has for them. I mean, we've got young men and women who want to be missionaries and church planters. And so I want to share your testimony from time to time because I think it's important for us to get little glances at what the work looks like at different points of growth, right? Different moments as things continue to develop and move forward. And so what was it like when you got there? But then maybe talk to us about some of the unique challenges that you've faced. I think it would be really helpful for our listeners to understand what it's like in Nairobi and what it's like doing what you're doing.
So Kenya itself is made up of 42 different tribes. And Nairobi is where all those tribes kind of melt together. And so with those 42 tribes, there's distinct cultures, distinct languages, and they all kind of mix together in Nairobi since it's the capital city of the country. Here, there's I think last I checked, there's 93 embassies. So it's a very international city. It's got one of the major United Nations hubs in the world is here. And so it's an international city. It's a very political city. It's a commercial city. It's an educational hub for East Africa. And so there's so many different mixes of industry, of culture. It's home to Kibera, which is, commonly cited as one of the top 2 or 3 largest informal settlements or slums in the world. Mm-hmm. And so there's this mix of wealth disparity, just a really, really interesting place to minister. Mm-hmm. For us, landing here, one of the first things that we were wanting to do is just settle in and make it home. So we had to find a home, immediately started language learning. So I'm learning Swahili. I take 3 lessons a week and learning it, trying to use it as much as I can to be conversational and proficient in it.
How common is that language though? Most people speak English, right? So do you run into Swahili very often or?
Oh yeah. So even like last month, I went up country with one of the disciples in our church to visit his home and his village. And when you get outside of Nairobi, again, you're entering into regions that are dominated by one tribe. So we went to a region that has all Kambas. And so in that area, the dominant language is Kamba and then Swahili and then English.
Wow.
In Nairobi, I'd say that Swahili is still the language of the people, and English is maybe more common amongst internationals or depending on where you went to school. Like if you went to an international school or British system school, then you might be stronger in English. But I'd say that a lot of our youth, they're stronger in Swahili than they are in English. And so in terms of connecting with people, when we're just hanging out, a lot of the conversation's in Swahili. And, they might change to English in order to include or to accommodate someone that doesn't speak it. But the dominant language is Swahili. Like that's the heart tongue of the people. So I'd say that most Kenyans, they speak three different languages. They speak a mother tongue, like a tribal tongue. And then they speak Swahili, which is, again, it's like India, where Hindi is the language that unifies all of India. That's Swahili to Kenya. And then the educational and like government language is English. And so that's studied and that's used in the workplace, but it's not the heart tongue, I wouldn't say at all.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't run into much Swahili when I was there, but it was probably just they saw a white guy come in and they thought, yeah, better stick with English.
They saw Mzungu and they just, stuck with English. But, so for me, it's really helpful, though, because of how proficient people are in English and because of the international nature of the city. Like all my preaching's in English because most of my congregation can understand it. I had to learn how to slow down in my communication to really enunciate things like that. And having slides and handouts are really, really important so they can follow along. Because, again, some aren't as proficient in English. But we've got like Russians that go to my church. We've had Burundis come to our church. We've had Ghanaians come to our church. French people come to our church. So because of the international, aspect of the city, English is actually the most common language if we're going to try and reach all peoples. And so I could see a day coming where we have like a Swahili service. But in order to reach like the nations here, English is the dominant language that's going to be the most helpful for us to reach everybody.
What about some of the unique spiritual challenges? Because obviously Nairobi, it does have a history with Christianity. There's problems with that. Like there are some heterodox teaching that's going on that's really common. A lot of maybe even heretical teaching, but there's also the ongoing presence of witchcraft is part of the culture there. And so maybe explain to us what the enemy looks like and what he's been doing in Nairobi and maybe what that means for your plan of attack.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the big thing is in Kenya, Kenyans would consider themselves and Kenya to be a Christian nation. And, we know that that's not biblical language. There's no such thing as a Christian nation. There's Israel and there's everybody else. But there's definitely been an influence of Christianity, missionary waves, things like that. And, most would identify as Christian, and it's nominal, Christianity. It's cultural Christianity. Even though most identify as Christian, we do evangelism corporately once a month. And so we're constantly engaging with the city and engaging with them with the gospel. And most people I talk to, they say, I'm a Christian. Some people will say, I'm a Christian, but he's born again. And so even in their minds, there's a distinction between cultural Christianity and someone that's serious about their faith. And so a lot of people that profess to be Christians aren't Christians. When I ask people that say they're born again, what does it mean to be born again? Most can't explain. And so even though it's culturally Christian, most people don't have an understanding of the gospel message. And so that's a huge thing is, man, most people have to get lost before they can get saved. They need to understand that they're sick before they need a physician. And so that's a huge thing. There's so many different kind of influences within Christianity here. So the Catholic Church is big. And with that, there's an emphasis on works and ritual, not on a relationship with Jesus Christ. There's been a huge influence of kind of prosperity gospel and charismatic influences that that put an emphasis on an experience, a spiritual experience. Again, not the certainties of the words of truth. There's definitely a huge influence of traditional religions, I guess, or witchcraft is kind of really what it is.
Yeah,
And
tribal things.
tribal religions. And it's been really interesting, recently, especially amongst the young people. So maybe 30 somethings and younger, there's been a huge resurgence in going back to witchcraft. So, there's kind of this talk of Christianity being a colonial religion that's been imposed by colonial influences. And in a rejection of colonialism, they've seen people kind of run back and trying to embrace these tribal kind of roots. And so that's been really interesting to observe amongst some of the younger demographic of people. And even within the older demographic of people, it's such a superstitious society that kind of like if you go down to like New Orleans or Louisiana, there's this mixing of faith where people say that they're Christian, but there is a fear of the occult. And so there's these mixing and blendings of holding to Christian practices and yet also fearing, acknowledging, and embracing other, mystical influences as well. And so it's a melting pot. But one of the really interesting things to observe is how much Islam is growing here. The largest populations of Somalis outside of Somalia is in Kenya. And so we've become a huge destination for the Somali diaspora. We got people that are Somalians or, second generation Americans that are coming from the United States, that are coming from Australia, from the UK, that are relocating to something that's closer to Somalia, but that's not Somalia, if that makes sense.
Wow.
And so it's very, very
and
interesting.
they're bringing Islam with them, and it's pretty radical in form of Islam.
And it's so interesting because right now Kenya is made up of 42 different tribes, but if you take a census of the Somali population, I think they'd be the single largest tribe in Kenya.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so in terms of the political, legal influence that they're going to have over the coming decade, it is becoming more and more influential. So much money is coming into Kenya through the Somalis from the United States, from all over the place. And there's a bit of affluence that comes with some of those communities. And it's becoming attractive, especially when you get to regions outside of Nairobi, where, again, it's hard economically. When a mosque opens up and they're offering free education or slaughtering goats and helping to feed communities, even if you don't believe in Islam, some of the things that they're offering make it pretty enticing. And so it's just definitely a very, very growing influence spiritually here in Kenya.
Wow. I want to also ask about the charismatic influence, because there's a lot of kind of Pentecostalism and things that you see in a lot of impoverished places where a few prosperity gospel guys really dominate. They have really large churches. People go, people are excited about it. They're, a very experiential form of Christianity, which from, a place that has a heritage of tribalism, experience is really important because it's so integrated in the way that they see religion culturally. And so Pentecostalism kind of offers that as well, that kind of excitement for the fervor of religion and spirituality. Maybe you can walk us through some of the things that you've encountered in terms of more charismatic faith.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because so I'd say that charismatic faith and Orthodox faith are super common here. So again, Catholic Church is very, very dominant, but also because we're so close to Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has a presence here as well. And what's really interesting is the demographics that both attract. And so in terms of Orthodox, like Catholic Church, they tend to attract a more affluent crowd because they dominate and propagate here through education. So the best private schools in Kenya and in Nairobi are Catholic schools.
Right.
And so they tend to attract the more affluent crowd. So, the people in my church that come from more affluent backgrounds, most all of them grew up Catholic. And most of that is because they went to Catholic school. And so that's interesting. A lot of my church comes from, not as well off economic backgrounds. And the majority of them come from a Pentecostal charismatic background because that's what's more dominant in those areas. And so they tend to feed off of, people in, more difficult positions. There's an emphasis on experience, but also tied with charismatic theology oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, there's an emphasis on the prosperity gospel as well. And so, some of that is taking advantage of people that are in a desperate situation and promising health and wealth and these things in response to their faith or these experiences. And so, it's just been interesting to see how there is a bit of a social economic divide that feeds into some of these things as well.
Yeah, I remember when we were down there, we did a Q&A. Sam and Kenny and I did a Q&A with the church, and there was a lot of questions about cessationism, and they wanted to understand it better. And so they were really like smart, well thought out questions. Like I was really impressed, but they were earnest. I mean, they really wanted to understand and know, because so many of them had grown up with this kind of faith, this kind of religion.
Yeah. And it's so interesting too, because the charismatic practice, it bleeds actually into all denominations. And so you can go to Baptist church and it's charismatic. You can go to Catholic church and it's charismatic.
Oh yeah. I think that's common in most places in the world, that there are Catholic churches, because if you think about the kind of the forms of dogmatism and ideas like stigmatas, and these are all kind of charismatic ideas, right? That there's these kind of signs and wonders that are taking place in the world, and there's a statue somewhere in South America that the Mary cries once a year, and these different things. I think that there is a kind of, because of superstition, the long history of superstition in the Catholic Church, I think it does in a lot of places, especially poorer places, lend itself also to kind of more charismatic thinking.
Yeah, I remember doing a Bible study. So with our youth group, there's a season where we did a lot of Q&A Bible studies. And this is a topic that came up, was, hey, what about speaking in tongues? This is something I grew up around. I've never done it. I'm trusting God to do it. And we just studied, turn to Acts 2. Let's see what speaking in tongues is. And we just walked through a biblical definition of what that looked like historically. And it wasn't speaking in an unknown tongue. It was having a supernatural gift to speak in known human languages in order to propagate the gospel. And this is during a specific time for a specific purpose, as a sign to the Jewish people. And man, we walked through it very clearly. They were reading the passages. There's clear understanding. And by the end of it, bro, like a young man in particular named Vincent, he just looked betrayed. He's like, what? Like he could see clear as day what the Bible was teaching, and just felt like I've been lied to my whole life. Like everything that I've seen is just a sham. And just like, it's devastating.
One of the things that I recognize about Nairobi, or I came to recognize, the barrier to entry wasn't as big as it was when I've been to other places like Ho Chi Minh or other places where they're very, very Eastern, or very, very, maybe places that would be very, very African. Nairobi's a place where I felt like I could go to and minister and just open the Bible with people. And there was like a kind of commonality around the Bible. They were willing to entertain and to listen and to dialogue. I really, really love Nairobi as a place. And I'm looking forward to coming. I don't know if that's what you've...
I'm so thankful for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. Like, I think the barrier to entry is like, in terms of cross-culturally, is relatively low compared to other places in the world that I've been. Like the fact that you can land and use English right away to get around immediately makes it easier. There's just so many cultural similarities and understanding of just Western thought that makes it so easy. It's an urban city, so it's not like I'm ministering in the bush somewhere, which I think, like at least within our fellowship, what we see most typical in African missions is bush ministry, which is so different than ministering in a major metropolitan city. Like I've been able to travel to so many major global cities, and in some ways, a lot of them are all kind of the same. And so you kind of definitely feel that in Nairobi. And at the same time, there's some huge cultural differences that you experience more when you live somewhere, if that makes sense. Like after being here for 3 months and kind of the honeymoon period wears off and you're having to do with some of the hardships of living somewhere new. It's something that was surprising to me. Before I moved here, I ministered in international student ministry. So for me, I thought that one of the easiest parts of moving to Nairobi was just going to be adapting culturally. I was like, oh man, I've done this. I've worked with internationals for a long time. This part will be easy. But I realized that in the United States, when we were ministering to internationals, we were the host country and we were the dominant culture. And, it's a lot different, navigating and engaging and learning a different culture when you're really actually inviting them to join us and helping them assimilate than it is when you're trying to assimilate into I was always on home turf in international student ministry. And now I'm on their turf. And so it's just a different dynamic of learning to navigate.
How's your family done with that? Can you talk to us a little bit about what Lisa and the kids have gone through and the difficulties and maybe just how adaptation has worked itself out?
My wife, she's a stay-at-home mother, and so she takes care of her home, she takes care of her children. That's a foreign concept here. Like women, they work. There's a huge nanny culture. There's a huge boarding school culture. And so the idea of parenting alongside other parents, which is what she got to do in the United States, just isn't very existent here. And so that's been a challenge. The school systems are so different here. In the United States, me and my wife, we both went to public school and that was just like normal. Here, there's so many different school options. There's boarding schools, there's public schools, there's international schools, there's British systems, there's American systems, there's homeschool options, and just beginning to navigate what's the best thing for our family. Going through the visa process to gain visas and just dealing with things moving so slow, bribery culture just being a norm, and figuring out how to do things in a blameless way where, corruption is just pervasive everywhere. Navigating what areas are safe, where we can go, where we can't go, when we can go there, how she can get around by herself with the kids when I'm not with them. Just all those things are just different things that we've had to navigate. But overall, again, it's been really smooth. God's protected us. Now we feel at home here.
Hi, I'm Sam Myles, president of the Living Faith Bible Institute. If God's placed a desire in your heart to lead, whether that's a call to the pastorate or simply a burden to be more effective in your local church, we want to help you take that next step. At LFBI, our ministry leadership courses are designed to equip you with both biblical conviction and practical skill. So you got courses like pastoral procedures. They equip you to lead with wisdom, structure, and purpose. Homiletics will train you to clearly communicate God's word. The servant leadership class will remind you of what it means to lay down your life for the flock. So it's not just information, it's preparation for real ministry impact. And so if you're ready to grow, we'd love to walk with you. Visit lfbi.org to learn more and get started today. The Living Faith Bible Institute exists to train leaders to rightly divide the word and faithfully serve the church.
When we got here, all of our long-term relationships were in Kansas City. That's where our disciples were. That's where our disciplers were. That's where our families were. And so early on, especially with Lisa, I could see this tension because, a lot of what she's doing, we've got kids that are, when we moved here, Louisa wasn't even 1. Lee was 2 years old. And so we had just young kids, and her primary responsibility early on was just establishing our home and helping to make sure the transition was good for the kids. And so most of her responsibility it actually didn't free her up to be a part of all the ministry things that I was involved in. And so I think that was hard because she was out here, she was sacrificing it just as much as I was, and yet she wasn't able to be a part of the church ministry in the same ways that I was, because her primary responsibility was our home. And because of that, most of her relationships that she was holding on to and clinging to were still at home. And it's been really exciting over the past year and a half to see the dominant relationships change from back home to relationships here. Like her gaining disciples here and gaining the hearts of the women here, and it feeling more clear where her investment is here and how she can, again, invest in the ladies. It's just been really cool and sweet to see some of those transitions.
And probably a common experience for a lot of missionary wives, I would think. Like, that's probably the story that's happened over and over and over again for many, many wives with kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough, but it's a huge sacrifice, and I mean, God's using it. Our church, again, is maybe a bit unique. I'm thankful we were able to hit the ground running, where instead of landing here in the beginning to like win souls and make disciples, we had been doing that for years and got to hit the ground running, which is really, really sweet. But even then, our family, when we got here, was the first complete family unit in our church. Like now, Duncan and Allie here, which is a couple that came from Midtown Baptist Temple, and they're a huge help. But outside of them, we're the only married couple in our church.
Why is that? Is there a strong widow culture? Is it a lot of divorcing? Is it men are running out? Maybe walk us through some of that.
I think it's a culture that came out of polygamy, really. Like if I was trying to think through how this began, and so that was just the cultural norm, not very long ago, not very far removed, and as Christian culture became more prevalent, that was frowned upon, maybe, but it just kind of shifted forms. So now we're not going to have multiple wives, but we're going to still continue to have, multiple partners that we sleep around with and things like that. Like that just never changed. And so, sexual infidelity is just very, very common. Here, a lot of young people are having kids at a very young age, and the fathers aren't sticking around. A lot of women are having kids with men that are already married, and just again, that's not uncommon. A lot of men, maybe they have kids with a woman, and then divorce is very, very common here as well. And so there's just a lot of single moms. There's a lot of fatherless homes, and even it's really common to live in a home and you think your home's great. You got a mom, a dad, siblings, and then later on, like you go to school and you meet a kid that ends up being your half brother or your half sister. It's like, wait, who's your dad? Wait, that's my dad. And so, discovering hidden families and hidden siblings and things like that, in real time, like since I've been here, I've had members that got a call out of nowhere and, hey, I'm, your dad's baby's mama, and he didn't pay us any money. We're in need. Like, I didn't even know he had a separate family, and they're finding that out because, their dad's not taking care of the other family that was hidden somewhere else.
Jeez.
And so things like that are unfortunately very, very common. And so again, it's a Christian culture in name, but it's not a biblical culture at all.
Yeah.
And
right.
The crazy thing is all these men, they probably belong to church somewhere. Some of them are serving as deacons or leaders in churches, because there's, a show of spirituality, but there's no power there.
Yeah, that's tough. And speaking to that instability, I want to revisit something that you talked about, you mentioned briefly earlier, and that is bribery culture. And I think that this is a really kind of, not something that gets brought up a lot, but it's a reality in a lot of missions fields, right? That the government has corruption, and that there are people that are just working for the government, police officers in particular, who don't necessarily they don't necessarily want to do, perpetrate any major crime against you, but they do want a handout, and they will hold you up, and they will make your life really inconvenient unless you give them some money, right? And we've run into this on the mission field in India and all over the world. And there's a story, I think it's a wonderful story because it also, it speaks to God's grace. But there's a story that I'd love for you to tell about the young girl that went missing. And there's a lot of kind of like twists and turns in this story. So like last year, I was preaching at the Living Faith camp here in the Midwest for the youth who come together every year in the summer and do camp together here in the Midwest. And I get this crazy message. I think it initially came from Duncan, who was like, one of our church members' daughters is gone. Like, she's gone. We don't know where she's at. And we went to praying, like the whole camp, all the kids were praying for this little girl. Will you tell us about this story and how it touches on this bribery issue, but also on God's grace, because he did work a miracle that day, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say, one, bribery, it's not just at the police. It's not just at the governmental level. It's in every aspect of Kenyan society and culture. And so it's a part of the culture. And it just goes really, really deep. And so, and I know bribery and corruption exists everywhere in the world. I've just never seen it as in your face as I've seen it here, where on a daily basis, it's just a norm that everybody has to deal with at every single level. So whether it's getting a visa, whether it's the police, whether it's, literally anything and everything, everybody's looking for an opportunity to just keep a little for themselves. Whether you're an employee trying to get over on your employer, just like, and the crazy thing is that as much as like we frown upon it, like here, like people frown upon it kind of, but they also embrace it because everybody does it. And it's so interesting here. Like if someone gets away with, embezzling money, things like that, there's actually kind of like a good for him mentality. Like, man, he got his, good for him. The president here, and just the political circles here have been under a lot of scrutiny and, people suspecting embezzlement and things like that. And it's caused a lot of frustration in Kenya. And it's so interesting. Anytime I talk to an individual about a political leader, things like that, one of the questions I ask is, if you're in this position, what would you do? And they all say, I'd do the same thing. Like if I had the opportunity, I'd get mine too. And so as much as there's like a hatred against it and like frustration, like the overwhelming mentality of the populace is, man, if I was in that position, I would get mine too.
It's an entitlement perspective.
Yeah, just like I've been oppressed, and if I had an opportunity to, get over on them or to get mine, it's like, yeah, it's my turn, it's my opportunity. And so that's the mentality of the people. But in terms of the circumstance that you're talking about, one day I just got a message from one of the ladies in our church, and she said, hey, my daughter's missing. She didn't come home last night. I have no idea where she's at. I don't know what to do. I went to the police, and, again, here, what they say is you have to pay for justice here. So if you don't have enough money to pay the police, they're not going to do anything on your behalf. And so this is a Saturday morning that I'm talking to her. And I went to the police, and they said, bring a picture of her on Monday, and then we can start looking into it then. This is like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old girl, And they're like, yeah, just come back on Monday and we could talk about it. It's like, what? And to give you some perspective, over the past year, you guys can look up stats in Kenya, but there is a national crisis of missing children. Something like more than, I think around 7,000 children were abandoned over the past year. Almost 2,000 kids were abducted over the past year. I think they've caught like 200 trafficking incidents, over 1,600 missing children over the past year. Like it's a national crisis where children are going missing. getting abducted, being trafficked at an alarming rate. And so the fact that her daughter's missing, you know, the likelihood of recovery is actually very slim. I'll put it that way. And so we're desperate. We're praying. I sent out a message to the pastor's chat and just start rallying people to pray, and immediately send out a word to the whole church like, hey, we need to get down to this area, and this is not an affluent part of town, and we just need to start canvassing it for this little girl. We don't know where she's at. And so I get down there. I'm not from the neighborhood, and I don't know if you've ever been to the hood or somewhere where if you're an outsider, you stand out. Like
everybody knows.
They know that you're not from around here. And I got there before anybody else, any of the other members in our church. So just like in the United States, like if you go to the urban core and you walk in certain parts of the urban core, like if you're not from there, you're going to stand out. And the area that we're in, it's not the nicest part of Nairobi, and it's got a reputation for being a pretty rough area where, you know, if you don't know someone there, you got to be careful. And so these two guys come up in street clothes, and they know I'm not from there. So they start talking to me. Oh, are you American? Yeah, I'm American. Oh, that's interesting. Do you have your passport on you? I'm like, no, I don't have my passport on me. Like, oh, well, if you're American, you're supposed to have a passport on you. And, you know, out of nowhere, they say, hey, we're police officers. These guys are in street clothes. So they say, hey, we're police officers. Come with us. I'm like, nah, like, can you show me a badge? Can you show me any sort of proof that you're, you know, a police officer? I'm not just going to walk with a random guy to who knows where in a sketchy part of town.
Yeah.
And so, you know, now, again, this is a power fear culture that I live in. And so now I just completely insulted these guys because this is their turf. Other people on the streets can hear what's going on. And now I'm undermining their power. I'm not afraid of them. And so that only riles them up more to try and establish power and establish fear in me. And so they're getting frustrated. I'm like, oh man. So I'm calling Jeanette and Duncan. Hey, I don't know what's going on here. These guys are trying to take me. I don't know what to do. And so they're like, come with me. They're trying to insist. I'm not moving. And so one of them gets mad and just storms off. And the other one's like, man, you better watch out. You know, he's going to get you, all this. Next thing you know, sure enough, the guy that left rolls up in a police car. He changed into his uniform and was like, come with me. It's like, okay, if you're police, then I'm submitting to the authority. But I just needed to make sure that this was the authority. So I get in the car, and as soon as I get in the car, Duncan shows up. And again, Duncan is a Kenyan. He was born in Kenya. But he got trained up at Midtown Baptist Temple. He got saved through the Friends of International Ministry. He got discipled. He's a growing leader at Midtown Baptist Temple. And he left the United States to come help me plant a church in Kenya.
Right.
And so as soon as I got in the police car, Duncan shows up and he says, if you're taking my pastor, I'm going with him. So he just jumps in the car with me, which is super helpful because, again, I'm pretty new here. And, you know, I know the Bible, but I'm still figuring out how to navigate some of the cultural elements of being here. And so Duncan's trying to play mediator and peacekeeper between me and them. They just start rolling in the car, and we roll up to an unmarked facility. It's not a police station. They literally take us to just some unmarked building, and they walk us in. They put us in an empty room, and they're just playing fear tactics. And again, I'm explaining to them, hey, guys, there's actually a missing 6-year-old girl that we've got no idea where she's at. And you're wasting your time with me. I'd love it. I'm happy to sit with you however you want. But what if we found the girl first and then we could figure this out later? And they don't care at all. They're not worried about a missing 6-year-old girl. All they want is to extort an American for money is really what they're doing.
Right.
So they're trying to scare me. You know, one of them takes Duncan outside of the room. And it's like, hey, he's explaining to him, man, we want to help you out. We don't want to put him in prison, and, you know, trying to work out this deal basically for us to pay them under the table in order to get us released. And we didn't do anything wrong. Like, it's just frustrating. And so I think it was like 3 hours that they ended up detaining me and just back and forth. Like for me, I wasn't worried about myself. I was just worried about this girl, and they just could not care less. And so again, they're trying to shake me down for money. Our whole church in Nairobi's praying. At this point, the
Yeah, we've gotten the
conversation
news
goes
too.
at
Yeah, we're praying.
MBT from missing girl to missing pastor.
Yes.
And so everybody just starts praying, we don't know what's going to happen here. They're threatening me. This is in the wake of some pretty bad political protest where, there's a lot of fatalities, including a pretty prominent voice that was taken by police, and he was killed in prison, basically by the police. And so the police officers are threatening to take me to that same prison, kind of insinuating that, hey, we're going to rough you up, basically. And, I'm pretty ignorant. So for me, in order to show respect, I look them in their eyes. I'm talking to them like plainly. And again, Kenya is a power fear culture. So the best way to show respect to authorities is actually you don't look them in their eyes, because you're giving them the power. You're showing them that, hey, you're superior, I'm inferior. So I was just doing all the wrong things in their minds whenever I was looking them in their eyes, talking boldly. I was challenging their authority, and they weren't happy with it. And so eventually they just let us go, And so we get out, and now it's getting dark, and we're nervous because another night's going to go by where this girl's missing. Mm-hmm. And so we start canvassing the area for the girl, and I printed out a bunch of pictures of her that we're canvassing around. And wouldn't you know, there's these little kids, these girls, and one of them looks at the picture, and I could tell, it's like, oh, I know her. So we go and talk to them. Hey, have you seen this girl? Yeah, she's playing with my sister. What? Where? And so we start walking, and man, we're walking through huge crowds and a densely populated area that I'm not familiar with at all. And we're just following these random kids throughout this area. And I don't know if it was maybe a 20-minute walk from, where her home was. We ended up in this home, and hey, we're looking for this girl. Do you know where she's at? Oh yeah, she stayed the night with us last night, but we don't know where she's at now. We're going back and forth, and they've got no idea where she's at. And so we're like, well, maybe she made it back home. And so we just start walking back home. And probably within 2 or 3 minutes of walking from that place, literally like barely caught her. She just starts walking out of a dark alley and was going back to the home that we just left. And it was getting dark. For us, it wasn't a safe area to be in. It was like, at dark, we actually have to get out of here because we're just risking our lives now. And we saw her as it was getting dark, just a few minutes after leaving that place. And if we left even 30 seconds earlier, we wouldn't have caught her, Man. And so, she was recovered after being missing for just over 26 hours.
What a relief. When you saw her, what was that feeling like?
Just like my stomach just hit, like just dropped out. It's just like, so super thankful. You'll get to see her when you're here next week.
Man, praise God.
Just super thankful. But even things like that, just so frustrating that over human life, like some people are just worried about extorting,
What did you learn through the process?
So even though this is a bribery culture, it's never something that I've participated in. My conscience won't let me. Like I don't feel comfortable doing that. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I pastor a church and teach against this culture and still participate in it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
So I think about men like Daniel and Joseph. And I think in my mind, man, is this something that they would participate in? And I don't know. I just have never felt comfortable doing it. I know that some people do. And man, if they're not convicted of it, then man, I've got no problem with them participating in it. And for me, it'd be hard to participate in it and yet preach against it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm just perpetuating the culture by being complicit in it.
Right.
And so that's been my personal stance. The other thing that I've learned through it is that by not participating in it, every single time I've seen God just come through and in incredible ways. And so, and not taking the situation into my own ability and my own power and my own resources, for me, it's only given space for God to move in them. And so that is one example where it's like, man, this situation seemed hopeless. It seemed desperate. It seemed scary. I wasn't sure if I was going to, like, we were preparing. I was telling Duncan, hey, you got to preach for me tomorrow, because the likelihood of me actually spending a night in prison seemed high. Like, if you could talk to Jeanette or Duncan, it's like they weren't sure if they'd get their pastor tomorrow, like on the next Sunday. If I didn't get out, then I'd be there until Monday, because once you're in for the weekend, you're in till Monday. And so that's something that we were working through was, hey, who's going to preach? Like, let's get all these things together, because I might not be there on Sunday. And so, but in that situation, God came through. In situations like with immigration and getting our visas, again, it's so funny. The Naya house, the immigration house here, there's this huge sign on the entrance of the immigration house that says this is a corruption-free zone. And it's probably the most corrupt building I've ever been to in Kenya, you know? Like, it's just hilarious, because every step of the way, you know, people are, you know, trying to, you know, entice you to bribe them to push things along.
Right.
And they will intentionally hold up documents and take their time in order to encourage you to pay a bribe to push things along. I've just never felt comfortable giving into it. Like, and that might change. Like, maybe the Lord will give me wisdom and better discernment in that area. Or maybe, again, circumstantially, it was the right thing in those instances, and I got to see God move in a really incredible way. I think about being in India with Dan Renault, one of our really good friends, and we got detained when we were in India. And it hindered us from preaching a conference that we were there to preach. The really cool thing is, out of that, we preached the same content in one area, and we're going to the second city to teach the same content. And because we teached it in the first city, it was on discipleship. The translator, that was one of the growing ministers in this man's church, even though we couldn't go to the conference to preach it, he had already gotten the content, and it gave him an opportunity to present the material that he had learned.
Yeah, praise the Lord. Yeah.
And it was just a cool opportunity to see this leadership development growing, where it's not on the missionaries, but hey, I can teach this. I just sat under it. I just translated it. I've got the notes. Like, let's just let it keep going. And he ended up preaching a conference that we were supposed to. And so, again, God used it in a really cool way to do the unexpected. And I'll never fault someone for participating in something like that. Yeah. Again, I think God could give me a clear conscience at another time. But when he hasn't given me a clear conscience, I've only seen God use those circumstances and show up and work.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And I think that the thing about living the Christian life, whether you're a missionary in Nairobi or whether you're just ministering in the town that you grew up in, there are laws that are abiding laws. There's, like in Nairobi, there are laws in place, like cultural laws, like you will pay this bribe or we will not let you go, right? It's like the thing that keeps you grounded. It's like gravity. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't snap your fingers and change the culture. It's just the law of the land, right? It's the code, right? But the only thing that can override that is faith. The only thing that can override that is the power of the Spirit, right? It's the thing that'll give you lift and cause you to kind of transcend. And so I think even in the case where there's like, you're facing a moment where the decision's really hard and you hear in your conscience, you hear the Lord say, don't pay it. I think that what you do in faith is the thing that matters. And I think that's the only way. Faith is the only way that we win.
Yeah.
You know, even if you would have spent a month in prison, there would have been a purpose for that, and it would have been providential, and it would have been of the Lord, right? So,
and you're right, it is interesting because I think about laws differently because I'm from the United States. Like, we live in a guilt innocence culture,
right?
And the law in Kenya isn't necessarily the law because it's a power fear culture. And so the law, like when I was talking to the police that detained me, I said, well, legally, you know, and I started to go down that road. He stopped me. He said, whoa. I am the law.
Right.
Like, you're trying to appeal to a written law, but here it's a power fear dynamic and I'm the law.
Right.
So the only person to appeal to is me because I'm the authority here. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's different than the United States.
I'm thankful because I was real worried for you and I was very, very prayerful. I was praying so hard. The last thing I'd ever want is to see you get hurt. But I'm thankful that the Lord we have a testimony that we just got to share with all these people of how God's faithful, and how he answers prayer, and how he walks with people who believe in him. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, amen.
Hey, this is Jonathan Kindler, host of the Sound Mind Podcast, another podcast out of Living Faith Bible Institute. Sound Mind is where we take a deeper look at life through a biblical lens. And as a counselor and pastor and professor, I'm not trying to give hot takes on mental health. I'm trying to bring scripture close to the real places people are actually living. The fear, the shame, the pain, the confusion, sin and suffering, relationships, the things we usually manage, hide, or explain away. So, light, casual road trip listening, the whole family can enjoy. Some episodes are personal and reflective, some are more analytical, looking at things that are happening in our culture right now, and others are to help you walk as a pastor or counselor with people right in their life right now. So if you're looking for honest, practical, biblical conversations that get to the heart and the mind and what it means to follow Christ in real life, do yourself a favor and check out Sound Mind. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch episodes on YouTube, or you can just go to lfbi.org/soundmind. Until then, you take care. I can't wait to see you out there.
No, it's been really sweet to see what God's been doing here. So, one of the things that just happened recently is Jeanette. She's a lady that is the Lydia, right? She's the seller of purple, this lady from Macedonia that is a catalyst for beginning the church here. And she got trained up in ministry through Midtown Baptist Temple. She's a graduate of LFBI. She was a discipler. She was just active in ministry. And God scattered her and brought her back to Nairobi. And through that, we're seeing a church being planted here. And so super thankful for her example, her faithfulness. But the other cool thing that happened recently is her father recently just got saved. And so probably about a month ago now, her father at 73 years old, after her and her twin sister had been praying for him for about 25 years, finally was humbled, came to the end of himself, and cried out to Jesus to become his personal Lord and Savior. And so it's just been exciting to see how God's at work and using, again, these crazy connections. There's a guy I'm discipling with right now. His name's Edwin. And his brother, Kibi, got saved because he's an international student in Kansas City. And Cheney Perkins met him on the campus, and the very first conversation Cheney had with them, he had to lay out the gospel, and Kibi accepted Christ. And then Kibi got discipled by Cheney at Midtown, and now he's just a growing, just awesome servant and minister at the church. And whenever he moved here, Kibi called his brother and said, "Hey, bro, I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're doing, but you have to make it to this church on Sunday." And so one day his brother just shows up. Very first Sunday, his brother gets saved. He hears the gospel for the first time, responds to it. And now I get to disciple him, which is so, so cool. And his brother is going out of his way to get what God has for him. So he lives on the complete opposite side of town. It's probably about a 1.5 hour ride one way for him to be with us on Sunday morning. He works as a nurse. And so Saturday nights, he works the night shift. He gets off the night shift. He takes 2 buses, one to the city center, from the city center to where we're at. And it takes about an hour and a half for him to get there after pulling off the night shift because he wants to be invested in the Word of God. And so it's just been cool to see how God's using the relationships from Kansas City, how He's working in and through the people here. And we're seeing souls saved, and we're seeing disciples that are taking the call to discipleship seriously, and they're growing. And so I'm just excited to be a part of what God's doing here. It's just been so, so sweet to see specific answered prayer, to see the power of God at work in the lives of our members. And it's been a blessing. This past Sunday, we actually had our first Sunday with a pianist. And so it was a really big deal. When I first got here, on Sunday morning, we'd have like a track that we'd play, like just like YouTube
Right,
track,
I
and we'd just
remember
sing
that.
along to it.
Yeah.
And the worst part is the internet, which you can probably notice even through this conversation. It's not great there. And so we'd be
Right.
mid song and then it'd just start buffering. And it was like the most awkward thing. It's just terrible. And
Yeah.
Duncan, he came with a guitar and he just started leading praise. And it's just one man and a guitar. And now, over the year that he's been here, we had a young man named David that got discipled, came with us, started training in ministry. He just went through Foundations 3, but he's just growing. And he wants to serve the Lord. And so he's like, Duncan, I want to help out. So he started helping Duncan, just singing with him on Sunday mornings. And when I came to visit with Eric Phillips in 2024, Eric bought a keyboard for the church. There wasn't a keyboardist, but he's like, hey, you know, he was burdened as the praise leader at MBT, that the praise ministry in MBT could help, you know, see us grow in our worship of the Lord and to do that with excellence. And so he got it just in hopes to envision us to grow in our worship. And so we had that here. Nobody could play the keyboard. And David said, hey, I'll learn. So he started learning in January. And now in July, he got to do a full set for the first time on Sunday morning.
Wow.
And so it went from us singing along to tracks that were buffering to now we've got a keyboardist and a guitarist and a cajon and vocalist. And God's building our praise team here. And it's so cool because, you know, it's things like this that you take for granted at a church like MBT. Like the fact that we have so many gifted musicians and vocalists and that we have like this full worship team on Sunday morning. It's just so wonderful. And then to get to Nairobi and after, 10 weeks being here and it's just like this track that you're singing along to. And it's like, I don't know. It's just cool to see how God is growing.
Yeah.
So many different aspects of the ministry here.
It's amazing how God is at work. It's amazing how God uses slow starts to teach you how to have faith and to not prioritize things that aren't important. And God's just doing that in you. I mean, I'm watching you grow right before my eyes, and it's a wonderful thing. I can't even tell you the joy that it brings me. And I know that there's a lot of people who feel the same way and love what you guys are doing, excited about the future. And man, we're just really grateful that you took some time to give us an update on what's going on.
Well, praise the Lord. It's been sweet. I'm excited about what God's doing, and it's been good. I think as a millennial, we all grew up kind of the fast food culture, and we want things to happen instantaneously, and we want what our parents had. By the time we're 25, we want the car, the 2 cars, the big screen TV, like all these things, without actually working for it. And it's been good for me. I came from a very healthy church. And, in some ways, I want to be further along than we are, like right away. And it's been cool to actually just be where God has us and to be in the seasons of growth that we're in. It's been wonderful. And it's been a growing experience for me. Like, I feel like I get to grow with the church, if that makes sense. And so, it's been really sweet.
That was my prayer from the very beginning. I knew that, when you guys left, I thought, man, you always think, if I could just have one more year with him, right? Like if I could if there's a few more things that we could learn together. But I knew that when you went, that there are some things that only God can teach, right? There are some lessons that only God can teach. They don't come from the pulpit ministry or because we sat down and had one more cup of coffee and talked through that thing, or like there's just certain things that the Lord wants to teach, and He can only teach them if He gets you alone and puts you through the refining fire. And I'm so very glad for how good of a father God has been to you. Yeah. And man, praise the Lord. Yeah.
Can I share one last thing before we sign off?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, while I get myself in order here. Yeah.
So this is something that Dan Renault shared with me before I went, and I felt like I understood what he meant, but I'm getting delivered experientially now that I'm here. And one of the things he talks about is just taking for granted what you have in a healthy sending church. And he calls it the greenhouse effect. How, like, when I was at Midtown, I got to be very fruitful in ministry. Like, I got to be fruitful in Bible study and discipleship. Like, it was just fun, exciting. And it seemed like everything grew at Midtown. Like, any ministry that I was a part of, it just felt like it was growing. And what Dan would say is that's because you're in a greenhouse. There's so many mature ministers and people that laid a foundation, that established a healthy environment for things to grow. Guys like you that helped plant the church, and Pastor Sam and Pastor Chris and Pastor Kenny and all these men that created like a really incredible spiritual environment that things could grow in. And so it's really interesting coming up in that, where like everything, it feels like it grows, and then moving to Nairobi where there's not an established church culture yet. And so it's been really great, and just in terms of producing dependence on the Lord, but also like at MBT, I stepped into an established church culture and this, again, spiritual environment that is healthy. And that doesn't exist here yet. Like it's growing now, and that culture is beginning to develop, but everything I touch doesn't grow here. Like there's been, lots of failures and things that just like didn't take off. And it's actually been like a really good thing, but also a bit of an unexpected thing where you go from a place and it feels like you've got the Midas touch, everything you touch turns to gold in ministry, to a place where there hasn't been the same amount of, years of investment from people that went before you to develop this incredible spiritual culture and an environment for things to begin to grow. And so,
but it is God, and it always was God. Whether you're a church of 40 people or a church of 500 people or 1,000 people, it's always just God. And the wilderness is all around us, and there's always new soil to plow and to till and to prepare for the work. And one day, there are going to be men coming out of your church having the same conversations, and they'll have forgotten, that they were only a generation or two away from the hard work and the difficulty and the challenges that you'll still be facing that they can't even see. You know what I mean? Like the battle is never won, not until we see the other side. It's good that you're learning it from a new role, and it's a beautiful thing. And you're a good pastor, and God's going to continue to bless you. We're going to keep praying for you.
Well, I love you, man. This has been a sweet time. It's been refreshing, and I'm really excited for you to get out here so we could just spend some more time together.
Man. I love you, and I can't wait to hang with you.
Love you too, man. I'll see you very, very soon.
Okay. And we want to say thank you. Thank you for hanging out with me and my bro, just spending time talking about the work in Nairobi. I hope it was a blessing to you. I hope it felt like you were just right there in the middle of the conversation, and there was things that you were learning and picking up on as we talked. But we really do. We want the show to be a blessing to you. Of course, we really want the Postscript to be something that is refreshing in the middle of your week, and it's a place where you can grow and learn. But the Postscript is only ever just intended to be kind of that thing in between, right? You've got your local church that you should be plugged into, and you should be growing there, and you should be getting discipled there. But also the Living Faith Bible Institute is a classroom environment where you can learn really in-depth things about God's Word, about the ministry, about ministry leadership. And if there's something in your heart, like when you listen to a guy like Myles talking, or any of the many men that sit down on the show to talk about the work that they're doing, and there's something in your heart, and you're saying, man, I want to be a part of a work like that. I want to be a church planter. I want to be a missionary. Well, the Living Faith Bible Institute is the perfect place to be, because we're going to come alongside you as you get discipled in your local church, and we're going to give you more in-depth training and more in-depth education so that you can realize whatever it is that God is calling you to do. You can realize those things, and you'll be equipped to do that work. And so we want to invite you, come check out lfbi.org, learn about our school. It's very inexpensive. It's very flexible. Again, we want to accommodate what God is already doing in your local church. We just want to come alongside and be a blessing to you. But we love you. Visit the website. If you've got questions, reach out to us. But with all that said, we can't wait to spend more time with you again next week for another episode of The Postscript. God bless. Thank you for listening to The Postscript. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a rating and review in order to help other people find our podcast. If you value this show, Please help us continue creating content by supporting Living Faith Bible Institute at lfbi.org/support.